When people trust your expertise, the sales become much easier. And businesses that understand this, they don't just close more deals, they close more deals that turn into lifelong customers. If you're looking at your business and thinking, we're getting leads, but we're just not closing as many sales as we should, that's not a leads problem, that's a sales problem. And the good news is, that's something you can fix. How to close more leads without feeling like a used car salesman. I want to talk to you a little bit about something that is extremely important as a business owner. You could have the best product in the world, the best service, the best reputation, and still you're losing deals. They're slipping through the cracks. The reason why is because you've never learned how to sell. Sales is one of the most important skills in business. Anybody that gets into business at all should probably take some courses and get some experience in understanding the sales process and how to close more leads. Just like running your service calls, installing, doing all of the work in the business, sales is a skill that you have to learn. From managing people to the operations of the business, don't neglect this part of your business because it's gonna allow you to bring in more revenue. In this video, we're going to cover the biggest mistake that people make in sales, why talking less actually helps you close more deals, the simple formula behind closing more deals, the 3 reasons most leads don't close, how education builds trust with customers, how to explain value instead of defending the price, a simple technique to help your customers or leads make better decisions for themselves. I'm Alex Wells. I'm CEO and co-founder at Imprint Digital, located in Loveland, Colorado. I've spent the last 15 years helping business owners just like you turn their marketing into a sales machine, understanding all the different components of your operation and giving you the education and resources in order to do so. The first sales mistake that everyone makes. Most people think that sales starts when you're discussing the price. It actually starts when the conversation begins. In sales, you have to understand that you should be having a conversation with one another. It doesn't start by you explaining services, pricing, features, reputation, badges of honor, all of those things. It actually starts just like a normal conversation. You need to take time to ask questions, to get to know them, to thank them for reaching out to you in the first place. That's where the sale actually begins. Most people miss that. A lot of the time, we actually hear this from our leads as well. They're coming to us, we start asking questions, we get a chance to get to know them, their background, challenges they're facing, and they're surprised. And this is because a lot of people don't really understand sales. As soon as somebody reaches out to them, they start to talk about how great they are, and we do this and that and the next thing, without even really understanding who they're talking to. But understanding the business, understanding the challenges, understanding the situations and the problems that they're facing is really how you can actually sell to them. Because understanding those things allows you to make sure that you are mirroring the conversation back to their situation. Then you can present the solution, apply your services, your reputation, and all of those other things that you're really anxiously excited to tell them about, and actually make it geared towards what their problem is. This is going to allow you to be able to have a more conversational approach to sales. Good sales actually tends to lead to somebody selling themselves. That's something that you have to really keep in mind as the conversation's going on, because a good salesperson is actually going to get them to convince themselves that they will refer to you as the solution to their problem. They're actually deciding right there with you that the solution to their problem is your business. That's how good sales begins and ends. What you're doing here is called consultative selling. It's a framework used in books like Spin Selling by Neil Rockham. And the idea is simple. Instead of pitching, you're asking questions. Where are you in business? How long have you been in business? What challenges are you facing? What goals do you have? Are you currently doing anything similar to what we offer? What kind of investment do you have available to do this? In an ideal situation, if this were to work out extremely well for you, what would it look like a year from now? Those are questions that are gonna help you spin sell into getting them to actually understand that you have the solution they're looking for. The sales formula. A simple way to think about sales is an equation. Problem clarity plus trust equals closed sale. If the customer clearly understands the problem that they're facing, they're going to end up actually understanding more of what you offer. Because in many cases, I'm sure many of you guys have also been to maybe a car repair shop, for example. And depending on your knowledge and understanding of how to repair a car, it can be difficult if they're trying to explain all of the different things they're doing for you. So, this oftentimes applies to most services. Most services are going to be difficult to understand for the customer. Otherwise, they probably wouldn't be talking to you in the first place. The more confusing it is, the more likely they're going to think that you are trying to take advantage of them. Notice what's not in the formula. Pressure, tricks, fancy closing lines, none of that exists in the formula. Sales is often a lot more simple than you'd like to make it out to be. Always try to make it as simple as possible. If you notice the conversation starting to become challenging and there's too much detail and depth, you're probably losing them a little bit. So try to dial it back. Try to relate back to this particular equation and make sure that they're talking. This is something you need to pay close attention to. If the customer or the potential customer is not talking very much in the conversation, you're likely losing them. You can also pay attention to things like social cues. If they're looking down, it looks like they're dazing off, if they're not paying attention, if they're not engaged with you very, very directly, then you're losing them. Dial it back. That's a good point to stop, ask a question, or provide a clarity statement. Make sure you take a step back and be like, is this something you're looking for? Or would this help you? Those are good things to insert in those conversations if you feel like it's getting too complicated. Education builds authority, authority builds trust, trust closes deals. That's what you're looking for. And that's what we're here to help you with today. So understanding that educational statements and being able to have conversations and asking the right questions, being a part of the sales process and making sure it's collaborative, that's going to immediately put you in a better position to close more deals. This concept is actually in a book called The Challenger Sale. And what it refers to is to teach, tailor, and take control. That's what you're really doing in this conversational component of the sales process, is you're teaching them with some education, right? And that is going to immediately open the door to putting you in the position to gain their trust and to close that deal. Why most leads don't close? Most leads don't close for 3 reasons. Not price, not competition. 3 things. Uncertainty, lack of urgency, lack of trust. Think about it from the customer's perspective. Their brain is running a quiet checklist in the background. Is there actually a problem? Is this the right company? And do I really need to fix this right now? Your job in sales, at the end of the day, is to remove any doubt in those questions. That is sales. Sales is not fancy taglines, fancy closing. Maybe you're watching a lot of Instagram reels of people just cold calling and just getting really jacked and excited, drinking 4 energy drinks in order to try to close more deals. That's really not what it's about. It's really about what we're talking about today. You need to remove doubt. You need to remove those questions, and you need to provide trust that you are the right company. What people actually buy is not just the solution. You need to understand the component of the gap between the problem and the solution, because all of that stuff in between is really what's going to close the deal. It's all about where they are now and where they want to be. If that gap isn't clear, they won't move. Your goal is to make that gap painfully obvious and very easy to understand. If one of those questions isn't answered clearly, then you are going to lose the sale. Probably is a huge no-no in sales because it immediately creates doubt. It makes them think that you doubt the solution that you're trying to provide to them. Probably is always going to stall a deal. Avoid saying probably as much as possible and speak certain. You need to assume the sale. You need to assume that you're providing the solution. You need to assume as much as possible. And you also need to have the confidence in making sure that they understand you have that solution to their problem. Use education as a sales tool. They don't pressure people. They continue to teach them as much as possible. And sometimes it's going to require more depth than others, depending on who you're talking to. Some people might have more knowledge about the situation than the other person. And you have to understand that through the process of asking these questions. How much education do I need to provide? How much does this person know about what I'm talking about? And you have to be able to shift how you're educating them depending on who that person is and how much they know. This is also backed by something called the curse of knowledge. It's a concept from Made to Stick by Chip and Dan Heath. You understand your industry so well, you forget that the person that you're talking to doesn't understand much about it at all. Your customer is not thinking like you. There's a reason why you're the person doing the sales in that organization. Always remember that. They don't understand as much as you do. So when you slow down, you're not over-explaining. You're explaining things clearly. That translation is what builds trust. When you put in the time for this, they stop seeing you as a salesperson. They start to build rapport with you. They start to actually maybe start to open up and maybe joke with you a little bit, maybe ask you questions about things that are completely unrelated to the conversation that you're having. That's a good sign. Don't get annoyed by that. It is very positive that they're starting to open up to you. This means that they're starting to trust you, that they start to see you as an expert. And this means that you're getting closer to closing that deal. A lot of salespeople assume that educating too much is actually going to turn into losing the deal. It is technically the opposite. I actually have experience with this firsthand. I've seen sales team actually built on the idea that they didn't want them knowledgeable about what they were selling, that they wanted them just to be good at sales, that understanding the information and trying to explain it too much was going to make them less likely to close the deal. So I'm always a huge advocate for educating your sales team as much as possible. They should be able to understand more about the business than just about anybody else in the organization. The more they understand, the better off they're going to be in answering questions, solving problems, and getting that potential customer to trust them. The power of diagnostic questions. I'm going to talk to you a little bit about some questions to help you along the way. Instead of talking non-stop, ask some of these questions instead. How long has this been happening? Have you noticed your energy bills changing? Has anyone looked at this before? These questions do three things. They reveal the real problem, they show you're paying attention, and they make it collaborative. It turns sales into a problem-solving session instead of a sales pitch. Now we get into one of my favorite subjects, explaining the value instead of defending the price. One of the biggest fears of salespeople is price objections. But here's the reality. Price objections usually mean that the value hasn't been explained yet or not well enough. There's a classic line, price is only an issue in the absence of value. If someone understands the cost problem, the price of the solution starts to make more sense. If they don't, everything feels expensive. In home services, people aren't buying just the product. They're buying peace of mind, comfort, reliability, and certainty. That's what you're actually selling. A simple closing technique. One of the easiest ways to close sales is using the decision bridge. After explaining the situation, say, based on what you're seeing, you've got two options. Option 1, repair the issue temporarily. Option 2, fix it permanently. Then you have time to walk them through both. This is a version of the option close. Instead of just asking, do you want to move forward? You ask, which of these options make the most sense for you? Now it's not yes or no, it's direction. And people move faster when they have direction. The mindset shift. Sales is not convincing someone to buy something they don't need. Sales is simply just trying to get somebody to make a decision that is going to help them in the future. When you focus on helping, sales gets easier and you're going to close more deals. If you want to close more deals, remember this. Diagnose first, educate second, recommend third. When people trust your expertise, the sales become much easier. And businesses that understand this, they don't just close more deals, they close more deals that turn into lifelong customers. If you're looking at your business and thinking, we're getting leads, but we're just not closing as many sales as we should, that's not a leads problem, that's a sales problem. And the good news is, that's something you can fix. If you enjoyed this video, make sure you hit the notification bell below, follow, subscribe, and stay tuned for more.